right. Hi, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome back to some of you, and for those of you just joining us, welcome to the third session of the Roofers Digital Marketing Bootcamp with Shashi Bellamkonda discussing the fast-growing neighborhood network Nextdoor. My name is Blake Rivers, and we also have Jenny and Steve here to help me monitor any questions you all have throughout the session. Speaking of questions, I'd like to begin this session with a question. If you all could tell us, are you on Nextdoor already? You might already have recommendations on the site that you don't know about. Go ahead and write your answer in the question box, and if you're looking for it, it's located in the webinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. This is also where you can ask questions throughout the webinar that Jenny, Steve, and I are going to help get answered. Now, we've got today's full agenda on the screen for you right now. Hopefully you can join us for every session because at the end, we will be awarding one Google Home Mini to one lucky registrant. You'll notice a few handouts in your webinar control panel on the right-hand side of your screen. They are detailed two-page guides on Google My Business, Nextdoor, and Google AdWords, and they're free for you to download, so please help yourself. There's a ton of good information for you in there that you can also share with your team. And without further ado, let's welcome Shashi Bellamkonda. He's our CMO and Nextdoor expert. Shashi, take it away.
Thank you very much, Blake, and thanks everyone for joining the Spring 2018 Roofers Digital Marketing Bootcamp. I think the team did a great job bringing in different topics for everyone. Hope you're all enjoying the topics so far. Now, how to become a Nextdoor favorite? Before I do that, I'm going to just networks being launched. Now, I teach at Georgetown on evenings and weekends. And very often I tell my students in the 3-hour class that by the end of the class, whatever you learned in the class may be redundant because somebody somewhere in a Starbucks has started a new social network and everybody is talking about it by the next day. But being business owners, we probably cannot jump into every network as it comes because we don't know if it's going to make a difference to our business or not. So at Surefire Local, we actually take a lot of time to look into each new network as it comes and if it makes sense. What you're going to hear now is something that we have actually told our customers about Nextdoor and why it is important. Now, as you all know, as business folks in the home improvement / contracting business, the homeowner sees many messages across channels. And we actually, and you heard Bob this morning, Bob actually believes in an entire integrated marketing strategy that not only includes digital, but also includes some of the channels that I'm going to show you as we walk through. This is literally from my mailbox over the last couple of days. I mean, as a homeowner, I live in the Montgomery County, Maryland. Surefire, for your information, is actually in Tysons, Virginia. We just moved to a new spanking office, so that was something to celebrate in the last couple of months. So this is Best Pick Reports, right? Yeah, I do, because I'm interested in marketing, I do look at it, and this is in my mailbox. This is from Renewal by Anderson. Again, a lot of the dealers are customers for digital marketing. But you're gaining eyeballs of homeowners through different channels. And then the Washington Post, I mean, I don't know how many of you read the newspaper every time, but I definitely do. And every day there is a new home improvement contracting ad that I have to see before I open the paper. This is a direct mail piece that comes in. And of course, very often, and I'll tell you my background about why I'm talking about Nextdoor. When Nextdoor started in 2013, I set up the first Nextdoor network in my neighborhood. And what that setup meant was I had to prove, number one, that I was a resident of the neighborhood. In fact, they have several methods for verification. And one of them at that time, I remember, was my credit card. So they didn't charge my card, but I had to put in my credit card to prove that my address was right. So as part of being Nextdoor, I've seen a lot of activity in the last 1 year. And this came into my mailbox probably yesterday, right? And it talks about how people, neighbors are talking. This is no different. If you talk about networks, digital, one thing that we ask every customer to remember is basically it's communication between human beings. As human beings, we actually want verification of or validation of a decision. Most of our customers tell us their biggest business comes from referrals. What has changed today is families, individuals move across the country, no longer have the luxury of calling their aunt, high school buddies, or anyone to say like, hey, I'm really thinking of this big remodeling job. Do you know anyone who can help me out, right? So what they do now is they go to Google. I actually found my roofing contractor through Google, and coincidentally, it happened to be a Surefire customer. But these are the conversations that have moved from phone calls to high school friends to posting on the network saying, hey, we want to do this. Can you recommend somebody in advance? And then people will either view, reply, thank, right? And then I said, like, let's look into more conversations that are taking place. A roofing shingle color. I know I had to go through the homeowners association to see what was approved, and it's an easy process to get other things approved. But again, these conversations are taking place. You have no visibility to these conversations until you take some action, and that's what we're going to talk about during this. Any questions so far? Like Blake said, you can actually feel free to put in, and I'm going to put Blake on the spot and say, Blake, are you a member of Nextdoor as a resident?
I have to admit that I'm not, but my in-laws are, and they love it. They talk about it all the time. So I know they're using it from the consumer side, but I myself haven't tried it yet.
Right. I mean, I think there's also a difference. The reason why, Blake, are you a renter or a homeowner?
I am a renter, I'm sorry to say.
Exactly. And we hadn't talked about this before, but I put Blake on the spot. I'm pretty sure his in-laws are homeowners, and that's why they love Nextdoor. Renters, not so much, because like it doesn't fit into that. Most apartment buildings are their own society, but homeowners don't have these block parties and all these meetings. So Nextdoor has suddenly become the social interaction place. So thank you for sharing that, and sorry for putting you on the spot. So they're talking about roof shingle color, and then here they're talking about. I mean, in the Maryland area, we had a storm a couple of weeks ago, and then naturally, if you ask me, I'm not very good with my hands. I'd much rather leave everything to a professional. So when the first time I saw something black fall down in my yard, I didn't even know what it was. My only interaction about roofs and roofing was from the home inspector who talked about shingles and roofs. So I naturally would have had the same conversation on Nextdoor asking people, and I can tell you I've actually recommended a lot of people on Nextdoor. So in general, my point here is that if you ever wanted to get in front of verified homeowners, this is probably the place that those conversations are taking place. The other way that they verify, as new people move in or as leads of this network send out invitations, the invitation looks like this. And when it looks like this, and this is actually my postcard that goes to my neighbors to ask them to join Nextdoor. I can tell you in a neighborhood of about 300 houses, 250 homeowners have actually already joined. I feel pretty good about it. Sometimes I send messages about school buses running late or homeowners association meetings. So it's been a good network for me along with recommendations of businesses. We actually asked Nextdoor. We have a good relationship with them. They came in December and gave us a detailed briefing about what Nextdoor is and where they want to see it grow. They've launched 150,000 neighborhoods, and I can tell you, like from the last time they spoke to us, I'm pretty sure this has probably gone up to 200,000. So we actually asked them back probably in June, July. If you are on the Surefire Locals marketing newsletter, you will definitely receive an invite. If not, just send an email to marketing@surefirelocal.com. Maybe you or your marketing colleague, if you're business owners, you may have a marketing manager, or if you have other friends who can use this information. But it is 81% of all US neighborhoods. Imagine that. Like 81% of all US neighborhoods now have access to a Nextdoor network. And these are all small pockets of network. Like if I'm in the Potomac neighborhood, I can discuss it with probably the neighboring ones, but not across the state. So again, it's highly targeted audience. The Of course, as homeowners, you definitely want to target people at a certain income level, and you want to target decision makers. And some of this, like they probably Nextdoor also has an app. It's not only on your desktop or in your email, but it actually has an app that can continuously give you notifications. So in short, the point here is you can do all the marketing that you did, but a little bit of your time in setting up this network. Again, to be totally upfront, this whole session was not about selling Surefire products, but giving you something actionable that you can go in and do this. Of course, if you do want to buy the product, I'm sure Blake and company would be helpful. So I think the main message here is check out Nextdoor and set up your network. Some more things about what kind of referrals are taking place. 24% of all postings on Nextdoor are about recommendations of businesses. I'll give you another example that is not connected to the home improvement industry. My eye doctor. People moving into the neighborhood ask like, hey, what's a good eye doctor to recommend? And I want to just talk about the value of a recommendation, right? Eye doctors, and I'm only talking about eye doctors because we've done some studies there. The value of an eye doctor is if there is one patient from a family, that means 4 patients will become patients of the same doctor. They spend on an average $100 per family per year, and they stay for 10 years. So that's about 4,000. That's about $4,000 is the acquisition cost. Now you can spend a lot of money in other channels, or you could also make sure that you do excellent service so your customers are referring you. We know for a fact that most of our customers have told us that customer referrals are absolutely the best way to get another new customer. The 80% of all members were influenced by a neighbor's recommendation. I mean, that stat itself speaks for it. Like, you definitely want to take this recommendation, then go to Google, search for the company, and make sure that what your neighbors have recommended are also very similar. So the message there is like, yes, you should go in and set up your Nextdoor page, but across the entire internet, the information about your company should be the same. When I bought my house, the owners had recommended an electrical company. I took that recommendation to heart, searched for them, and called that number. No, the number was wrong. It was ringing. Nobody was picking it up. And they lost my business just because of that. I wanted something very quickly, and the recommendation did not work. So along with these recommendations, make sure your entire digital presence is up to date. The recommendations, again, continuing on this, if you search, one homework that I can give you today to note down is, if in your service areas, just type into Google Nextdoor Potomac, Maryland, or Nextdoor any other place. What you will definitely get is a Nextdoor page that has a few recommendations already. So as people recommend you, Nextdoor has an algorithm that keeps adding these recommendations, and you actually will see neighborhood favorites. So you have the chance of getting into that. Now, the most important reason why you should be on Nextdoor is also that, number one, you get a new link back to your website. And as people will tell you on the internet, link is like cash. It's like currency. If somebody gives you a link, it means that they've said, hey, I like this business, please go check them out. So it's a new link for your business, and you have the ability to get into a new directory. So that's another important reason why you should do this. And also, you build your local reputation. One of the reasons why I strongly urge everybody on this call to go into Nextdoor is you will be able to thank people when they recommend you. You will get a notification and in fact, one of our customers wrote back to us yesterday and said, like, they are on Nextdoor. They get notified every time some customer talks about them. They go and thank the customers personally, and they've got a lot of sales by just interacting with them. So I think this is a win-win situation for everyone. It's still early in the game. Only 310 claimed local pages. Nextdoor is very happy with that, but I feel like it's a fresh start for us to look at. So I would think this is the right time for you to go and claim your business. So we'll talk about how to claim your business, right? And like you said, Nextdoor is always trying to make changes to improve the business. We have seen a lot since the first time we started recommending to our customers. Uh, you should actually maybe if you're all interested, we could send you a one-page quick start guide on Nextdoor on the right hand side, and we'll send you the quick start guide as part of this, which you can either use or send it along to somebody else who is managing your marketing, or just like you like recommendations, we like recommendations too. So maybe you want to pass it along and recommend everybody else join this community of people whom you're trying to educate this. So to look at this, you need a local page, and to create a business presence, you should actually go to nextdoor.com/create-business, right? Once you do that, you should actually claim, and even though the individual is marked here, our advice for you is to click on the business part of it. And when you click on the business part of it, you can actually start sharing a few details about your page and then adding some good pictures. And take this as a personal message. Like if you were directly talking to a homeowner, what would you say? That is exactly how you should claim this page. And I want to give you another tip here. Even one tip that I want to give you is to start claiming your business page. But you all live in a neighborhood. You're all homeowners yourself. Go in and become a member of your Nextdoor neighborhood. Do the same thing that I did. Go say Nextdoor. Go to Google and type in Nextdoor, the name of your neighborhood. Most probably the Nextdoor page for your neighborhood will come in. You can go in and search for street address and join that. So just to be clear, as an individual homeowner, join Nextdoor with your own name. As a business owner, go in and go to nextdoor.com/create-business, and do not associate your personal Nextdoor ID with that. Create a separate business ID. The reason being, you might want other people to manage your Nextdoor page too. So that's very important. Like I said, we always are here to answer any questions. Email marketing@surefirelocal.com for two things. We'll send you the quick start guide and we'll answer any questions. Again, we are not part of Nextdoor. We are just a educational partner of Nextdoor, but we do a lot of things that Blake can actually talk about in a little while. But again, a few of the things. Greeting message, I just said, the greeting message, don't try to sell it. Just explain why you're unique. You know the area, you've done business in the neighborhood, and choose a great picture. The address is absolutely important. Hours are absolutely important. Here's a tip for you, and this came from one of our customers. Especially when there is a storm like there was in this neighborhood, don't put a message saying, don't call us, we are too busy, we've got too much business. Say, hey, we know your family needs help. We are here to help. Send us an email 24/7, because email is what you can manage, right? And you're also showing how much you care for the community. These are some tips that we have seen has worked for other people. Now, everything works through recommendations. So make sure when you are doing jobs, people know that you're on Nextdoor. Tell them like, hey, if you find a conversation about roofing, remodeling, or gutters, can you make sure that you recommend my business, right? So that's also a good tactic to follow. And look at you actually will get the ability to see how many times you've been recommended. Every time somebody makes a recommendation, you will actually be able to get a notification. Just do the same thing, share it to your followers, and then share it on your local business page, or make sure you go and thank them, because once you thank them, they are now incented to start recommending you more and more, and that's what I've seen in the network that I manage. Promptly responding to inquiries. I know we all say it's a no-brainer. I have personally called roofing contractors and I never got a call back at all. So naturally, the people who respond the fastest have the best opportunity of closing the business. That's something that I'm sure all of you know. And so that's what I wanted to talk about Nextdoor. It's free, needs a little bit of your time. Follow the steps that we gave it here. In return, you will get a lot of recommendations from customers. You can use that recommendation everywhere. And hey, we have looked at it. We didn't come to you 3 years ago and say join Nextdoor. Right now, we are seeing value with our own customers. So here we are telling you like this may be a good opportunity for you to spend some time and join Nextdoor. Of course, we have a cloud, and we are talking to Nextdoor about integrating it into the cloud. But that should lead us to this conversation. Before we go into that, if you have any questions, like Blake said, Jenny and Steve are eagerly looking at the screen for your questions. So you got to give them something. Any questions on Nextdoor?
All right, perfect. Thank you, Shashi. And so, yeah, guys, questions, please feel free to have this come. And kind of more to Shashi's point, you know, we at Surefire, we'd really love the opportunity to learn more about your unique situation and how Surefire's partnerships with places like Nextdoor and with Google can fit into your marketing strategy and honestly help you win more jobs. We're offering one-on-one calls with our digital marketing experts next week so that you can get an expert analysis of your current digital marketing situation, and we can show you kind of where we can help take that. And we're looking to have these calls on Tuesday and Thursday of next week. So the poll's now open for you to pick a time. And if neither of those days works for you, please just select for us to send you an email, and we will definitely reach out to you and find a better time that works for you. But definitely something I'd encourage everyone to take advantage of. Just to learn a little bit more about how we can help your business show up on places like Nextdoor to ultimately win you all more jobs. And so
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what is the most common question that people ask you when they get on a call like this?
Like on one of our consultation calls, a lot of times I'd say what people are most concerned about is really visibility outside of areas where they are physically present. Like what I've found a lot of home improvement companies struggle with is if you look at the zip code where they are physically located, they will show up really well in search results and really well, for folks looking for their services. But the second you get just a few miles outside of their zip code, somewhere that's well within their service area, because most contractors I speak with, they have a service area of about 30 or 50 miles, even farther if they're driving for a referral. So one of the big things we look to help them tackle is gaining that visibility outside the zip code where they actually have their physical location. And it actually makes sense if you think about it, because a lot of folks, if you wanted to service an area like Tyson's Corner, you don't necessarily want to have your shop here, because what you would need to pay in terms of renting, getting that land, store equipment stuff is going to make it difficult. So a lot of times our customers are located a little bit outside of the area they really want to be servicing, and we help them solve that problem.
Oh, that's great. I think I agree with you. That's top of mind for a lot of contracting business. So do we have any questions?
Yeah, actually, we had a good one come in here from Laura, and she's asking, can a local company signed up for Nextdoor talk to anyone outside of their zip code? And so I think right to the point here. For instance, if our company is in the 15206 zip code, can they only talk to people on Nextdoor in that zip code, or how does that work? Is there like a range, or?
So that's why I made the recommendation that they should have two accounts. Mm-hmm. One is Laura can set up her own account in the place where she lives, right? So that's a personal account for Nextdoor. She can only talk to her neighborhood, or they have neighboring communities. So she can talk to the neighboring communities. But as a business, any neighborhood that they service can actually recommend the business. And I'm telling you, Nextdoor gets the results of the business gets from where? Google My Business.
Of course, yeah.
So which means that your Google My Business, and I'm sure you can answer questions on Google My Business on your call. Yeah. So when, let's say I am the homeowner in a zip code other than the zip code that Laura is in.
Sure.
So I say hey, you looking for a roofing or remodeling contractor? I don't know which business Laura is in, or HVAC. Hey, go and try Laura's HVAC company. And then it gets tagged, meaning Nextdoor says, hey, did you mean this business? And as soon as the customer says yes, then in your business profile, you have the ability to find out who actually recommended you.
Okay.
So to your point, Blake, you just made that people have a larger service area than their own zip code. Using this tool is a good way for them to keep in touch. So the business doesn't have the ability to go and talk to people in all the zip codes, but once they tag them, they have the ability to interact with them.
Okay.
Hope that answers your question, Laura. Great question, by the way. And
actually, she had a good follow-up question as
Yep.
well. She was asking, are there reasonably priced sponsored ads available via Nextdoor for service companies focused on particular geographies? So I think what she's saying is, can we really have ads on Nextdoor, sponsored ads that are targeting particular neighborhoods, particular areas?
You know, this is going to be a homeowner's perspective because that's on our agenda to talk about in the Nextdoor webinar that's coming up about Nextdoor ads. Probably about a year ago, Nextdoor did not have ads.
Okay.
Now they have the ability to target people just like what Laura is asking for. But I have no visibility into what it costs and how it is, but I know that they are targeted ads. So they have ads now. They are going in for a lot of national brands, and they've told us that they're opening it up or have opened it up to local businesses to start advertising. But I've not seen in their terms and conditions, like for example, if somebody is looking for Laura's business, Laura as a homeowner member of Nextdoor can absolutely say like, hey, I live in your neighborhood. My company does this. That is perfectly all right.
Okay. Perfect. So definitely the ads on Nextdoor is something that we'll want to explore a little bit more. And looking at a couple other questions, Cynthia and Dan ask, can you claim a business if you have 2 or more different locations? What's that process look like? And that's a great question because we work with a lot of customers who have multiple locations, sometimes in the same market, a lot of times in different markets. What's the process there? Is it going to be similar to like a Google My Business profile where you can have one set up for each location?
I don't know about cross-state, right? But if you're serving in the service area, then the customer has to, like let's say you are a contractor and you have 3 different offices. You can set up 3 different profiles, but I don't think Nextdoor has the ability right now to connect them all to one business. So it's got to be like Laura's contracting company, Ohio, Laura's contracting company, Texas, and these are different business pages.
Okay, got it. And so Cynthia and Dan, I hope that makes sense and helps answer the question. It looks like with the difficulty linking, in my experience with platforms like this, a lot of times when they're only a few years old, they may not have that functionality, but I'd be really surprised if Nextdoor doesn't implement something to really cover that as we go forward, just because I'm sure that's going to become more and more relevant.
Yeah, and I also I know this is a conversation about Nextdoor, but I wanted to give a tip that we give most of our customers, and this is about Facebook. Very similar to the point that you just said. When these places launch, they don't always have the capability or tools. Facebook did not have the capability to give you the ability to have a business control panel, right? Now, just a tip to everybody on this call, it's a bonus tip for you. If you're managing your company pages, please go to business.facebook.com and manage your company pages. Don't manage it through just your personal account or otherwise. And I'm sure you'll find this tip helpful.
No doubt. Perfect. Thank you. And one more that I saw just pop up. It says, this seems geared. Nextdoor seems, a bit more geared towards residential market. Does our team have a specific platform for commercial roofers where we would need building owners, GC, and property management?
Yep. General contracting.
Yep. So I wonder, do we have a platform that we would recommend that would really help the commercial guys?
Great question, and this comes up very often about commercial, and I'm going to be on a panel which talks about B2B marketing, which is what most commercial things work on. Our recommendation to most commercial folks is, number one, your website should show your brand, right? Because I think there's a lot of personal relationship that comes in B2B marketing, but the 48% of all now have millennials in them. There are 2 important reasons why that is important. These people do a lot of research on the internet before making a recommendation. right? Like if Blake, you're the business owner, I'm the millennial, you're going to say like, hey, I need to do an RFP on a new roof, right? Now, smart business owners should get ahead. They should be in front of you and your team much before you're ready for the RFP. And the way to do that is the website and constantly updating with content, because technology, materials, the way you do business, uh, commercial roofing companies are all the time improving their technology. But the building owners, the facility managers, and their teams don't always know that, right? So if they read something and they search for it, your content should come up first. LinkedIn, great example. Now, I want to bring this back to this. Even if you're a commercial roofing uh, company and you're the owner, you should be on Nextdoor, because serendipitously, who knows what kind of opportunity comes and when you know your neighbors, right? Like if a neighbor is asking about a residential roof, you can show your expertise there and say, by the way, I'm not a residential roofer. This is what I do. And who knows, maybe your neighbor is actually one of those giving out an RFP, right? I know in business, it's always like you need to be very tactical, but sometimes, helping earn karma points, I think will come back.
Absolutely, really good advice. And one more question that I saw come in was, what do you recommend for a response to a negative comment? And this attendee has one, and they're not really sure the best way how to reply to this. And it looks like they're not really even sure what this woman's complaining about, who's left them a negative comment, but she's moved away and they're unable to talk to her. So just in regards to negative comments, how do you recommend folks reply to those?
I think every comment, positive or negative, should have a response. And sometimes, like in this case, if the person has really moved away, I think the response should be like, hey, we believe in 100% customer satisfaction. Here's my email address. Can you get in touch with me? And we'll make sure we work with you. Now, it may not be just for the person who put the comment. It's for everybody else who's going to read the comment. They're going to say like, wow, this company has the back of their customers. They actually came and posted a comment, because people are reading into both the review and your response to that. And I think as business owners, I can't tell you how often we see contractors always wanting to do the best, right? So that should show in your response. So don't worry about negative reviews. It's not the end of the world. You just need to make sure everybody else who's going to read the review can relate to that and say like, wow, this company has really taken the trouble of responding to it. And I'll give you an example of a literal use case. We got a call from one of our customers who was very worried. They have an excellent reputation. He was very worried about one negative review. You know what we said? Look, you are giving such good service that your customers are reviewing you already. So if you have a lot of reviews, one negative review doesn't change your score at all. So have a strategy where you're asking people to say like, hey, by the way, we are on Yelp, we are on Nextdoor. If you're on Nextdoor, we would love to have the option. And you have to train your team, right? Because they are the people who are going to talk to the homeowners. And one thing I've noticed that every service person who's coming to my house now, on their card, they say like, if you're not happy, call my boss. I mean, I was just thinking like, that makes perfect sense to me. Like, I'm actually not going to call their boss, but I know that they care so much that they're actually putting the contact information.
That's good. And there's a lot of good in what Shashi said, and there's a lot of good to unpack there. I think some of the biggest points are, though, anytime, and not just on Nextdoor, anytime you get any sort of a negative comment, the best thing you can do is reply to it, and reply to it in such a way that just indicates you're trying to get in touch with this person and you're trying to work towards a resolution. And honestly, if anyone, if you guys have reviews right now, maybe on a site, like an inherently negative site like Yelp, if you have a bad review, if you have a bad review sitting somewhere though that you haven't replied to, do yourself a favor, reply to it. Because even if the negative review is from a year ago and you're replying to it today, a year from today, all your prospective customers, they're going to see that negative review and they're going to see that reply. And if they don't see the reply, they just see an old negative review not replied to. So definitely the best thing you can do is address it. And to Shashi's point, if you get a good review, I always recommend just saying thank you. And hey, the best compliment you could give me would be a referral to your friends or family for a few different reasons. You may win the referral. It does help with the person you're applying to kind of win a customer for life. And finally, from just an SEO and online visibility standpoint, you replying to your reviews serves as one more touch point that the search engines are better and better at picking up apart. So it's good for your business from any and all angles. But looking now, I don't see any more questions in the chat box for now, so we can go ahead and wrap it up. I want to thank Shashi again and everyone here for joining us. Our final session is going to begin in about 25 minutes with Jeff White leading his popular seminar on Google My Business. So we really hope to see you all there. Enjoy the break, and we'll be back in just a little while.
Thanks, everyone.